welcome to another Looney Tunes review video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to follow my journey to review all 1000 classic Looney Tunes shorts and give this video a like as well. So this is a review for Water, Every Hare, and with me today I've got a very special guest. It's my good friend Jonathan from This Means Podcast. Say hi!
Hi Anthony, how's it going?
Very good. Little birdie told me, and I'll try and do the New Jersey accent here. He said that this was your favorite short, Water.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I got to visit the Chuck Jones Gallery back in 2011, 2012, around there. And Chuck Jones's grandson came up to me out of nowhere because I didn't even know it was there. And he asked me what my favorite short of his grandfather was. And I was stumped for the first time ever around a Looney Tunes question. And I finally came to my senses and said, Water, Every Hare. And it's been my favorite ever since.
Beautiful. So just a few things to get out of the way. First of all, as mentioned, it's Water, Every Hare. I was making a mistake before, Water, Everywhere, but anyway. It was released on the 19th of April, 1952. It's the 647th in the series, and it's directed by, who else? Chuck Jones. You pretty much spoiled that part already. Mentioning, it's like, uh-oh, but no, it's all good. Now, you can find this on the Looney Tunes Gone Collection Volume 1 DVD set. It was then since remastered in high definition. It was on a streaming service. It's no longer there, I believe, but hopefully we'll get this upgrade on some sort of physical media, some sort of collector's choice, if you will. That would be good, but they'll need to fix up the pitch. I think the pitch is a little bit low, but whatever. I can live with it. First world problems and all that jazz. Now, I can't show you guys the full thing here on YouTube due to copyright. That's unfortunate, but that's how it is. So, Jonathan, what happens in this short?
It's flooding around the rabbit hole, and water is definitely seeping in. Bugs is bobbing up and down, and Bugs is basically lifted and carried out into a river where a overlooking evil scientist fishes him out and wants to use his brain to Frankenstein a robot to come to life and do his evil bidding. Bugs Bunny gets away and runs amok all over the castle.
Beautiful. See, I'm just putting you to the test because you said it's your favorite. I just wanted to make sure that was the case. So, well done. You get a gold star for that one. So, some trivia for this one, and there's actually quite a few here. First of all, I will mention, just on a personal note, that the first time I actually saw this short in any way was actually that part of it was used in Daffy Duck's Quackbusters. It was a film that I watched quite often when I was little, and they animated one new little bit, and then they used the wonderful scene, the My Stars bit, which we'll certainly talk about. I absolutely love that.
Definitely.
And then, of course, when the Golden Collection Volume 1 came out is when I saw the full thing for the first time, which I absolutely love. But I actually saw Hair-Raising Hare first that featured this monster, and that was because of the fact I think that was on the Bugs Bunny Superstar movie that I had taped on VHS and I watched many times as well. Later on, we'll go into more detail, but yeah, this is the second appearance of that monster, and here he's named Rudolph, and we'll get into the whole naming. I don't know if debacle's the right word, because it's just a bit of confusion over it, but yes, it's the second appearance. And we see the mad scientist here, and the appearance is a play on Boris Karloff, and it's interesting that later on Jones himself would work with Karloff in the wonderful Grinch Who Stole Christmas, one of the greatest animated TV specials of all time, and, well, animated projects, full stop. It's amazing.
100%.
Now, here he's voiced by what we call the enigmatic John T. Smith, because hardly anyone knows a thing about this guy. And it doesn't help that he's got this very bland name, John Smith. We're not talking about Pocahontas here either, or anything like that. Now, the voice... Now, you were mentioning Vincent Price to me before we recorded that's what it sort of sounded like, and some have said...
That's who he reminds me of, yes.
Yeah. He seems to be more playing on the then famous horror host Maurice Tarplin, and he was best known for the narrator of the radio show The Mysterious Traveller, and he had that similar... It just sounds like him. I was listening to a few samples, and it seemed like it.
This is The Mysterious Traveller, inviting you to join me on another journey into the realm of the strange and the terrifying. I hope you will enjoy the trip, that it will thrill you a little and chill you a little. So settle back and get a good grip on your nerves, if you can.
What is true is that the title, Water, Water, Every Hare, that is a play on a line in this poem called The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, where the line is, of course, water, water everywhere, nor any drop to drink. So that we definitely know. And we hear the mad scientist saying, giving promises of spider goulash. Yum, yum, right? You know, spider goulash.
There is a rabbit loose in the castle, Rudolph. Return him to me, and I shall reward you with a spider goulash.
And for those who don't know, goulash is a traditional Hungarian dish, and it's like a soup that has beef, vegetables, paprika, that sort of thing. Maybe we'll have some after we finish recording, right?
Can't wait.
Yum, yum. Actually, it's nearly dinner time where I am, so maybe I will have some goulash. But what I won't have, though, is ether. And for some people watching this, it might seem a bit weird about the whole gag at the end where they all start talking slowly and they're just out of it. And it's like they're drunk in a sense. Just to explain that a bit, that's a reference to diethyl ether, yeah? And there was a time where it was actually used as a recreational drug, especially in Europe and including Ireland. And there was a thought there, rather than drink, to have ether instead. And it's weird because ether actually gives the exact same effects as alcohol intoxication, but it's actually a lot more potent with euphoria, hallucination, and of course in higher doses like in this short. Well, yeah, you can see the effects for yourself, so yeah.
Sounds like a good time.
That's it. It sounds like a good Saturday night. Get your Netflix and ether. Well, it doesn't quite sound as Netflix and chill, but yeah, that's basically why ether's there. Because these days, from what I was reading, it seems to be only used in certain places in Europe still, but it's largely superseded with, let's just say, other things, which I won't get into in this review. So those are the references. A little birdie has told me, yeah, like I said before, this is your favorite short. Why is this your favorite?
Well, it's interesting because, first of all, you mentioned horror host to be the voice of the evil scientist, who would get a name later as Dr. Frankenbeans in numerous different pieces of Looney Tunes media. But here he's just an evil scientist, and he's trying to Frankenstein a robot with Bugs Bunny's brain. And obviously, Bugs is going to get away and run amok. And whenever he does, he encounters different monsters, different things that equate to the classic Universal monsters, including Invisible Formula, which is a send up to the Invisible Man. I also think that Rudolph here is a play on a Wolfman type. And again, he was already in the earlier short, but here he's a bit orange and he's wearing these tennis shoes. I think it's more pronounced. So I think what you're getting is a bunch of different monsters coming into contact with Bugs Bunny for the first time. And I think that's a really fascinating dynamic because we already know the only thing that can get under his skin that he cannot defeat is a little guy, either a tortoise who runs really slow but has a lot of friends, or a gremlin. And here he is able to get one over on all of them, but he's able to do it in the best way ever by using what he knows, by using dynamite, by pulling out every stop. And you don't know what he's going to do next, but you know it's going to be hilarious and it's going to work. And Bugs is just at his most powerful whenever he's up against monster types. So Chuck Jones essentially just put him in a castle with a bunch of monsters, and he's able to, quote Bugs Bunny, think fast, rabbit, and get out of every situation that he falls into. It's endlessly enjoyable. I love coming back to this one, and it's my favorite because it makes me laugh every single time I see it.
Although I do have to wonder, why are there mummies in this castle? Like, you mentioned there's so many horror references, and, well, we got mummies in there for some.
The mummy, exactly. So you have the mummy, you have Frankenstein's monster with the robot, and you have Wolfman and the Invisible Man's formula, which Bugs uses to get one over on Rudolph here and turn him into a little miniature monster. And I love the voice change as he goes from a growling beast to as he runs away and kicks the rat out of his house. And also at the very beginning, I could relate to this because I am a heavy sleeper, and Bugs sleeping through the water, it just in his house and just not phasing him at all is just quintessential sleep deprivation and somebody who needs a long 8 hours.
Well, you then wouldn't be good at doing my job where I got to get up at 3 a.m. to go to the airport and stack bags for a living.
Not at all. I feel bad for you. I'm so
No.
sorry.
Oh, no, I love it. I actually get paid more when I start that early, which is always a good thing, more money, better. But I would imagine, though, while you're sleeping, do you actually play on the nearby speakers the Prelude number 15 in D-flat major? So that's basically known as the Raindrop Prelude by Frédéric Chopin. I could not have picked a much better song to play while the whole rain sequence is happening. It's really nice. It's a great opening.
It is so tranquil, and honestly, this entire short could have been a nightmare, except for Gossamer doing his little paddle boat in front of Bugs as he's waking up. I love how dreamlike this entire this entire short is, but this sequence of the ether all the way back to the rabbit hole and him waking up, it just feels very ethereal. Like you don't know if Bugs is really doing all of this or if something is guiding him. And I just love the nuance of it all. It just feels like you can marinate in it. And that's another reason why I come back to it so often.
Yeah, and of course, at one point, if you stop the short, you would think, oh, yeah, is this a dream or not? But then, of course, you see Rudolph saying, that's what you think, in the wonderful voice, which is very unlike all the growling that you definitely see. And why Chuck Jones is a master, and of course, his team of animators, obviously Chuck didn't animate everything, but look at the animation of Bugs trying to sleep while the water has risen. Just the gravity of him trying to stay down, but parts of his body's floating back up again, then down.
And his
I thought,
blanket floats and he has
yeah,
to pull it back down. Yeah, it's just masterful.
exactly. And that's the hardest thing to animate, where you to show that you're trying to weigh down something while everything else is floating up and do it in such a convincing way. That's what stood out to me when I saw that initial scene. But then that goes out the window and he's already weighed down when he's trying to get a glass of water in the water.
And on the flip end of that, when we meet the evil scientist, he is operating on a ladder because he is a small character and he needs to get on top of this massive robot. And on the left side of the screen, you see, and it's quintessential Chuck Jones line work, these little lines that are making up the electric voltage that is going on behind him. And they're so colorful, they're so vibrant, and they're all unique. And I think it's a pattern of maybe 8 or 9 until it repeats. And it's just so great to have somebody who handcrafted those lines, and you know that there was attention to detail because no line is the same. They all look like they're doing something. And then there's just like this one diagonal one out of nowhere, but it fits into place. And unless you're looking for it, I don't think it really takes your attention away from the screen. So that was actually one of the things I noticed upon my most recent rewatch right before this.
Things you'll always notice, of course, is the neon lighting with the whole evil scientist and, of course, Boo. It's just so ridiculous. That's probably the most Tex Avery-esque of all the gags in this short, really, but
Yeah.
because that's the sort of thing he would do. But hey, it's funny. I absolutely love that. And I also love even the design of the robot. It's just one of those designs that's just so appealing, and yet it's just the way it looks. It's like a quite modern style. I know this is 1952 by this point, but it still feels classic. I just love that design.
I just love that if Bugs is in a castle, there's got to be a robot.
Of course, once Bugs realizes what's going on with the mummy and all that, which once again, why is there a mummy there? I don't know. But anyway, his expression, it's fantastic. He's like, yikes. And Chuck certainly knew how to hold on to an expression that would work so appealing. If
And
you
he
get
knew exactly what to do with the pupils.
Yes, exactly. And I think there's even one point where Rudolph, the eyeballs move as well. That's one of Chuck Jones's trademarks, I think, in one of the latest shots in this short. If you compare the animation style to even, a few years earlier in the first short with this monster, the hair-raising hare, you'll notice the hair-raising hare is a little bit more fully animated. And because Chuck Jones, of course, was figuring things out as all artists do. But by this point, he's got down pat the idea of holding on to shots for the maximum effect. So like the expression earlier, and just certain movements. So you just figured you don't need to animate everything like Bob Clampett did. You could just do it this way and more subtle, which I thought was pretty good.
And it elevates the comedy.
Exactly. And I don't know if you agree with me on this, but my favorite scene, and that's probably just because I saw it more often than the show itself, is of course My Stars. It's a very interesting scene to watch. A lot of interesting things happen in it.
Made by some very interesting people.
Exactly.
Starring a very interesting rabbit and monster.
And I just absolutely adore that. It's just, of all the things Bugs does to try and get out of this situation, so he's thinking, oh, how do I get out of this? And then it's just that. Like, how did he come to that conclusion where he's just going to give him like a pedicure and do up his hair? And Mel Bank's delivery, of course, and his masterful way of being able to stay in character while doing a different voice with that character. It's incredible.
He saw an adversary that had a lot of hair. So his first thing is, okay, we got to tame the hair. And he's a master at that. So, of course, he's going to go into a barber type manicurist persona. But what I love about this scene is you have, because it has such a great buildup, you have the alligators down in front of him. He can't go forward. And to go back, he has to run into the monster. He goes, think fast, rabbit. And then he pulls out this entire table with the tools to do the job. And he gets behind the monster. He starts doing the perm. And he's like, oh, this will never do. These pins are not strong enough. Let me go grab some more utensils. And he goes and grabs the dynamite. And the way the executed payoff comes about is perfect because you know it's coming. You have dynamite in the hair as Gossamer is standing there, or sitting there rather, and it is like fusing down as Bugs goes. He's actually singing as he's waltzing away, and the explosion goes off, and the expression on the bald monster is hilarious. You have somebody who was so happy because somebody was giving him attention, somebody who was being presented as somebody who needed their hair done on all this stuff and getting pampered essentially, and then to have that just taken away immediately by dynamite is so funny. And I think that's why it stands the test of time, and that is referenced more than anything else in this short.
Exactly, and it's a fantastic scene. It's one of my favorite Bugs Bunny moments, period. Just out of filmography, and then that's what elevates to me this short more than some of the others.
Uh-oh. Think fast, Rabbit. My stars! Where did you ever get that awful hairdo? It doesn't become you at all. Here, for goodness sakes, let me fix it up. And I don't know what things are coming to. In my business, you meet so many interesting people. Bobby pins, please. But the most interesting ones are the monsters. Oh, dear, that'll never stay. We'll just have to have a permanent. Now, I've got to give an interesting old lady a manicure. But I'll be back before you're done.
And, of course, we see some fluid. I like the fact you've got reducing oil and vanishing fluid, but what is that uglifying acid? You'd have to wonder. He doesn't use it in this short, but you wonder what the additional effects are if it turns someone into a hide-looking monster. Or
maybe.
Maybe.
Would like to get her hands on.
Maybe. And, of course, we get the reducing oil. It turns Rudolph small, as we know. But I just love that nice little topper gag where Jones could just stop there, right? He's like, oh yeah, he's small, he's out of the way. But no, they add the extra thing where he goes not into the mouse hole, so it kicks out the mouse or rat or whatever. But then you get another topper where he's like, I quit.
And he must have written that in a hurry. But the handwriting is impeccable. And I love the exclamation mark. Really emphasizing the
I quit. Exactly.
Pronouncingness of this.
Oh, exactly. And of course, we have the vanishing fluid, how Bugs just puts it on himself, and how it basically gets rid of this monster. I thought that was pretty good, and a nice way to save a few bucks as well, I would imagine, with on the animation. But even then, that sort of thing has to be planned out perfectly, because that could look wonky if you have nothing there, so to speak. So they would have probably still drawn out Bugs doing the action, but very roughly, and then just erased him from when they actually shot the cells.
And what it does really well is elevates Harry Love's effect animation. And you have Bugs interacting with things that are just like a hammer that hits a can that has been placed over Gossamer, like prototype Gossamer, Rudolph. We'll call him Rudolph here. And just the effect animation is so smooth and so quick, and it's telling its own story. And I love the fact that you don't have to have Bugs standing there to understand Bugs is holding that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly right. And of course, we have a special tonic. I don't know why he has this particular tonic, but the mad scientist puts on the head of that special extra tonic that he just
Oh,
happens
yes.
to have. It's like, all right, I guess he's just a well-prepared scientist, I suppose. Once the ether actually comes loose and they end up feeling the effects of it, the timing, it's actually not that easy to do slow motion in animation, especially when you're doing the more fuller animation, because there's a lot more drawings involved. Of course, a master like Chuck Jones by this point was able to do it well. In fact, later on, and this is obviously getting well ahead, when Chris Freeling does Speedy Gonzalez and then he introduces Slowpoke Rodriguez, Freeling did mention that he really didn't like doing the Slowpoke because of how many drawings are involved and how much longer it takes because he's just so... Whereas with Speedy, it'd be just like a few drawings and it's just so quick. So here would have been a lot of work involved. But then again, they would have made up the time probably having Bugs invisible anyway. So I guess it sort of evens.
Yeah, it does. So I just wanted to mention the whole Gossamer naming thing that came
yes,
about in
that
the
was...
80s.
Yes.
So it was a marketing thing. They had this character that they really loved, the monster character. And yes, he'd been called Rudolph before, and they really wanted to rebrand him for merchandise. And so they came up with the name Gossamer. I believe, obviously, the definition of Gossamer is a fine filmy substance consisting of cobwebs spun by small spiders, seen especially in autumn. And so it has that reddish orange color. And so I think they took that name and they just gave it to the monster. And I think it fits. I really enjoyed the name. And I have really associated that name with this red orange monster the entire time. So I have no qualms with them calling the monster Gossamer. I don't mind Rudolph, but Rudolph has a Christmas connotation with it. So
Yeah.
not to take away from all of that, but I do enjoy the hard Gossamer that you get at Halloween. And now in America, there's actually a Gossamer costume. It's an inflatable, wearable Gossamer costume. So I'm excited to see that this year.
Oh yeah, I don't wear costumes, but maybe I'll make an exception. Maybe I'll wear that kind of costume. But
That'd be fun.
exactly. But Rudolph could just be after Rudolph Valentino. That could be the reason for the name. I don't know. It could be just a reference to that. But
No, could be.
I don't have any definitive answer to why he's named Rudolph here, but that seems to be the only thing I'm playing towards. But if anyone, again, knows an answer to that, let me know in the comments. I certainly don't know everything, so it's good to know these things. But yeah, we get the whole ether thing as mentioned with the animation. Of course, it's well delivered by Mel Blanc and John T. Smith. Just the whole slow talking that they do.
I really enjoyed when the evil scientist shrugs in slow motion.
Yeah.
I think they both do it, but right before they decide to go to sleep and say nighty night, they both shrug and then cross their arms to make a pillow.
Exactly. It's like, night, whatever. Because like I mentioned, it's like you get the whole euphoria and all that stuff, and it just makes you really, really just, yeah. And no, I'm not going to do a live stream testing out ether or anything like that. It's like, boo, unsubscribe. But yeah, and we mentioned, of course, the whole ending, was it a dream? And of course, we know it's not, but then again, is it the ether still in effect with Bugs? Was he imagining? That's what you think? That's a bit of a question mark there, I would say. Kind of like that topper at the end of the movie Inception. Is it real? Is it not? So I guess this is Inception before Inception came into being. So there you go.
I enjoy this short immensely, and it's endlessly rewatchable for me. And I just want to give a shout out to Michael Maltese, who wrote it.
Yes.
And Chuck Jones is clearly a mastermind behind animation, and this proves it time and time again. Also, Carl Starling's score, which is just incredible, and one of the few that he did in the 50s.
Yes, yeah, because pretty soon he'll be passing the baton to Milt Franklin, and then, yeah, Milt Franklin will do it for a few years before his untimely passing, and Bill Lava would then take over. And now, in terms of rating, look, this one, It's not a favorite of mine, but it's definitely up there in terms of one of the best Bugs shorts ever made. I'll give it between 9.5 and 10, thereabouts. It's up there. It's a great one. It's fantastic. I'm going to assume you're going to give it 10. Yeah.
You already know my score, and I'll give it a Bugs looking at the camera after wrapping a mummy around him, and an extreme screaming 10 out of 10.
Beautiful, beautiful. That's what I figured. But yeah, this is one of the great ones. And that's the thing. Even though we're in 1952, there are still so many great shorts to come. We've got Duck Amuck, Duck Dodgers. I call it One Froggy Evening. What's Opera Duck? We've got so many coming up. It's just fantastic. So yeah, that'll do it for this one. Make sure you follow Jonathan over on his podcast, which is...
Of course, you realize this means podcast.
Yes, and I'll have a link down below to that podcast. Definitely check it out. He covers also a lot of the newer projects, which I'm stuck in the olden times at the moment, trying to get all 1,000 Looney Tunes done. And by the time I'm 80 or 90, I'll eventually cover Baby Looney Tunes, that sort of stuff down the track. I'll be old and grey. But if you want to check out some of the coverage for the newer projects, and some of which I think is absolutely fantastic, some of which I'm not the target audience, but I still think it's pretty good to get the little ones into Looney Tunes, like the Looney Tunes builders, that sort of stuff. Yeah, definitely check it out. I certainly do. It's great stuff.
Thank you so much.
So that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take care.
Where? What? When? Why? How? Who? Oh. Phew. Must have been a nightmare. Oh, yeah? That's what you think.